You too worried about the dog in me. Sometimes I hear the streets is calling me. Hustle, baby girl, that's all I be. Got them good, so I call her my G. She said she heard me on the radio.
All right, man. MadStrange Podcast Season 2, Episode 3. We got Fully Surfing in the house with us today. Coach Frank Z, Oceanside legend, Desi Hollow.
What up, what up?
Where we at, Coach?
My locker room. Oceanside High School. This is the boys' side during the winter and the spring. So they're in the boys' locker room at Oceanside High Stadium.
Well, man, thank you so much for allowing us to be here today, man, and to get the opportunity, man. So, like, I want to say for the past several years, people are like, man, you got to connect with Frank Z. You got to connect with Coach Frank. You got to connect with Coach Frank. And today was actually the first day that we got to chop it up. And, man, I'm excited for today and for all of us to be here, man. Thank you to Desi. I know this dude's had a crazy busy week. The album just dropped last Friday, fully pulled up. And I'm excited, man, just to hear about not just Coach Frank Z, but DJ Frank Z. So, yeah, man, if you can just kind of give us an introduction real quick for the people that don't know, man. Like, how'd you end up at Oceanside High School? Where'd you grow up? Where are you from? And, yeah, man, a little bit about your story.
Yeah, man. So I grew up here in Oceanside, landed here. The military brought my family here when I was 6 months old. Thank you, U.S. Navy. We retired. My pops retired, and we moved to the neighborhood in Carlsbad, the President's, a little barrio over there. My mom was like, man, I don't like this place. We got to upgrade, so let's move to Oceanside. See, I love my mom's thinking already.
Isn't that crazy, though? Like, that was the perception?
Thinking. It was because she found this really good school in South O. So she specifically wanted us to live in South O. So we rented this jacked up spot on Tremont Street where I lived for a few years. At 6 and 7, I walked across Hill Street to school every day. And later on, they found a home and bought a home. It was embarrassing how bad that home was. But they had vision. They bought the worst home in a good neighborhood. And thankfully, there's money that the state gives to schools that bring in underprivileged kids. South O is a lower middle class to middle class neighborhood, but they bust in kids from the east side. So I made friends from Pozole, and I had this one friend who had a stepdad from Brooklyn. And the stepdad was a DJ. So I'd go to his house to go play. 5th grade, damn, what's that? And I saw this cat spinning 2 turntables, a whole room dedicated to his tables and his records, and I fell in love with it.
What year was this?
This was 1978, 77.
You remember the records that he was spinning?
Yeah, he was playing some, what we call old school now. He was playing some Ohio Players. He was playing some Barry White. He was playing some dope stuff that was just coming out of disco, the funk stuff. I mean, he wasn't at that point. You were hearing Confunction. You weren't really hearing George Clinton and all that yet. It wasn't really popping.
What about like Zapp and Roger?
So that wasn't out yet. No, this was before Zapp and Roger, right? So then around the Zapp and Roger time, I made a decision, man, I want to start playing music. So I bought a turntable, and I would play music at lunch every Friday in my 5th grade class.
How'd you buy a turntable in 5th grade?
Man, my pops had me working when I was 10, man. I had a paper route. My pops made me work from 10 years old, man. I bought my first car at 16. My pops had me hustling, man.
How was South O during that time? Like when you came, because it's crazy, man, because like my parents came from Mexico and they lived in Solana Beach. I was telling somebody that today that it was like, man, they came from Mexico. They were living in poverty, but they could afford to live in Solana Beach back in the 70s.
Well, in EG, right?
Right. And
yeah.
And then Carlsbad and Solana were a lot different than what they are now. And at that time, man, those neighborhoods were tough.
Yes.
And so, like, how was it living?
They're still tough.
So it's still tough. So how was living in South O when you got?
South O was just honestly, it was more like it is now than you really would think. There was some diversity there, a little more then than now. But Hill Street was crazy. Hill Street was crazy. My dad managed Wag's Liquor in South O, and later he managed Mike's Liquor in kind of halfway between, right in the middle there by Wisconsin Street. And I was scared straight by a lot of what I saw at those liquor stores, man. Prostitution, drugs, all kinds of crazy alcoholic behavior. Just like, honestly, my dad, who was from Chicago, my last name's Zimmerman, my dad was white. And so he was a big dude and he had hands. So he, at 18, 19, 20, was in the Navy, but he was working on the weekends for the syndicate, for the mafia, as a bodyguard at their clubs. But he was always around music, always around musicians. So my pops introduced me to some crazy jazz and some cool stuff like that. My mom was into, like, she loved Barry White and Lou Rawls and those smooth voice singers. And that foundation was really cool. So I had this little South O existence that I think, I was listening to that music. I was at Buccaneer Beach on the daily, body surfing and boogie boarding, right? I'm playing with my friends at the park, every sport you can imagine. South O was dope. It was really cool. It wasn't what the Valley, what Posole, what Center Street, it wasn't even close to that. I caught some crap about that too. Oh, you're a rich kid. We weren't that at all, right? But I definitely had less trouble to walk through every day, to be fair. Now it got a little crazier when I got to high school, when the South O posse, those are all my boys, right? When that started, that became a little different.
So you buy these turntables and you get introduced to, like, how did that play out? So
by the time I got to 7th grade, I was playing soccer too. So I love music. But I was getting ready to go to 8th grade, and my coach for soccer moved to Virginia, to the DC area, and my mom agreed to let me go back there for half the summer to train, because I was getting serious about playing soccer. But I had a girlfriend from Capitol Heights. I had a black girlfriend from Capitol Heights, and so her cousin out there let me come stay at their house. And the go-go scene and I learned how to scratch while I was there. I came back for 8th grade with some skills. So that's when I bought my first real, it was not a Techniques yet, but I bought my first real turntable and a mixer, and I started getting down in 8th grade. I was actually becoming a decent DJ in 8th grade. So. And
Virginia too, man. Like that's where New Jack Swing with Teddy Riley and Timberland and all them.
Much later.
Yeah, much later. But there's there was a lot of
the go-go scene, which was a lot of it was swing time as well. A lot of people, as a record producer, you hear very straight, but that swing time became really popular with the New Jack Swing era. But the go-go folks were doing it.
Right, but
actually, jazz was doing it before that, and it's all a deep music scene.
Because Pharrell, Timberland, they're all from there, right?
All there, man. Yeah, man.
So you come back, you're in 8th grade, and then now you're like, okay, when did you get introduced to rap and hip hop?
So rap and hip hop was really just starting, right? Like Run DMC, Fat Boys, that stuff was cold, man. It was good. But then, by the time I got into 9th grade, now I'm DJing middle school parties. By the time I got into 10th grade, I'm DJing middle school dances and high school dances. And I have to just tell you, man, being at the school and DJing the dance, man, bro, it was a lot of fun. I'm just gonna.
Not bad.
You felt like the man, didn't you? Uh-huh. You felt like the man.
I had fun. Yeah. I'm gonna leave it like that.
Yeah.
So I never got to go to a dance, man. I never had the grades.
Man, they had me DJing at lunchtime. They had me DJing at lunchtime. You know that quad we have here at the high school? Mm. They let me set up there and DJ at lunchtime. Oh, legendary.
What school, Jefferson?
No, here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm attending Oceanside and DJing here. Are you kidding me?
Student.
I mean, it was
DJing,
freaking
that
stupid,
guy.
man. It was
He
beautiful.
said middle school dances. I'm thinking like which middle
No,
school?
I went back and did Jefferson and Lincoln.
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
only
yeah.
2.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were junior high back then.
Yeah, they were
Just
7th,
to keep
8th
it
grade.
real.
Yeah, 7th, 8th grade.
Just to keep it real, yeah.
Yeah.
So then my junior year, 2 basketball players who were friends of mine approached me about doing an air band. That was a big thing back then, right? They were rappers. And so what you would do is you would go on stage and they'd play a song and you would lip sync the song. It was called air bands. It was a really big thing in the 80s. So we did a Run DMC song. And then while we were rehearsing, we just started like, I'd drop break beats because back then that's what you did. You would just find a little break in the record and you just backspin it, right? And just keep that break beat going back and forth, and then the rappers would rap over that. That's why they're called breaks. I don't know if you knew that. So I would start backspinning. They started writing rhymes. We started making songs. We actually ended up getting signed to this little record company and made a record while I was in high school.
What was the name of the label?
It was called Suntown Records out of San Diego. They found us we did an air band show, and then there was a talent show that was part of it, and they found us at that. So we put this record out. It was all right. Our group was called Ace Fly, Deuce Fresh. The 2 rappers were Deuce Fresh. I was Ace Fly.
That's when the DJ was like at the center.
The center
Yeah.
of it all. And we did another, after the record, we started doing shows. We started doing, I'm still in high school. We're at high schools performing now. That was fun. I just want you to know. That was fun. And so this talent scout found us and said, hey, I want you to come to LA and do a demo. We have a studio up there. So by then I was making that money working for my pops. I bought a Nissan hardbody. I think I just graduated from high school when that happened. Bought that hardbody. So we roll up in the hardbody to West LA and end up at this house. And there's this Jerry curl short dude with a Suzuki Samurai with Gucci seats. His name was Eric. It was Eazy-E, right? And
Is it before NWA? Or
this is right.
This
is right.
And just to clarify real quick, because I saw a picture of you, it looked like you had a Jerry curl, and yeah,
I had a mullet,
and it's you and Junior Say on the back of a truck, right? And you have all your DJ equipment.
Yeah,
behind
yeah,
you,
yeah.
That was one of your boys when you were here. Right?
Oh, when we were yes, Junior, game recognized game. So Junior was a great athlete, and I was pretty good at the music thing, but we met in middle school playing soccer. He was a goalkeeper at Jefferson, and I was playing for Lincoln. I cracked a shot and I broke his wrist. And then the next game, he beat the hell out of me with that cast the whole game. And then you're best friends, 7th grade or something like that. And so we were friends throughout this whole period. He was coming to my parties, carrying my equipment, helping push the drunk people away from my equipment. And then we'd pick up girls, and that was our night. It was kind of fun, right? So during this time, he was still here. He was a senior in high school. I just got out of high school with these 2 basketball players, Marvin McMahon and Kevin Hardaway, who's kind of an Oceanside legend too, actually. And we go up and do this demo, and the first cat that talks to us is Ice Cube. He's like,
so Eazy-E's there.
Eazy-E's there, but he's just off to the side.
Right.
And there's a guy named Laylaw who was the one that found us.
Boys in the Hood had already dropped.
No, pre. It's coming. Here it comes. So Ice Cube says, bro, I know you're from the West because I've got a mini truck slammed to the ground and long hair. And he's like, well, where are you 2 from? And Marvin, I'm from East Orange, New Jersey, which is right over the bridge from Manhattan, right? And Kevin was from Wichita, Kansas. So they were looking for good rappers. And as a matter of fact, when that Boys in the Hood movie came out, that's what it's called, right? Yeah. I'm watching it with my daughters, and I'm in the movie theater, and I'm screaming, no way. That when they're bringing the rappers through, I realized we were one of those groups that they had brought through, right? When they were looking for rappers. You guys remember that in the movie?
Are you talking about Straight Outta Compton? Straight
Outta Compton. That's what I said. Sorry,
yeah,
man.
But when they're bringing the
rappers through, we were one of those groups. So then they take me in the back. Who's the DJ? And I take my one turntable and my mixer I brought, and I set it up. And this is Dre. Hey, what's up, Dre? So I knew who he was from the World Class Wrecking Crew, and he's taking all these notes. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? He said, I'm just documenting our session. I'm like, wow, right? So then I set up my stuff, and I look, and he's over in the closet, and there's 8 black T-shirts and 8 pairs of jeans and 3 pairs of white steel. I'm like, that's all the same stuff. I ain't trying to think about what I'm wearing. I'm just trying to create. I'm like, this brother, right? So then I set my stuff up, and remember, I'd spent some time in the East. I went back after we made the record. I went to New Jersey, and I met this DJ named DJ Cheese. He was left-handed, and he was nasty, but both turntables were on the left. And I saw how much better he was with his good hand with 2 turntables. And so what I started doing was had my turntable, I kept one on the left, but I put 2 on the right. So we would play whatever we're scratching to, and then I'd mix off that one, and that one I would cut off this one. So I had a 3 turntable system, right? But because I cut off this one, the mixer was backwards. It tripped Dre out. He's like, the hell are you doing with that? We spent 40 minutes me showing him that backward system because it really sped me up, transforming and all that stuff. And then he let me sit with him for 5 hours while he tapped the beat out, and I got addicted. I'm like, that's what I got to do. I got to do that. But it was about his note taking and the attention to detail, how he used the mixer. I'd never seen anyone use the mixer like that. Man, and he created sonic space, and he was explaining that. Genius. That brother's he's an engineer that makes beats. He just has a different. I felt right then and there, I felt my calling. That's what I need to do. I need to do that. So I was playing soccer at Miracosta, and I was a pretty bad student. This whole time throughout this, I'm playing soccer. I love soccer, but music was my passion. And so I just flipped it. I dropped out of school. I was on academic probation by then anyway. And I just decided to dedicate myself to becoming a record producer.
Who was your favorite artist at that time? Because obviously NWA wasn't what NWA became during that time, but who was someone that you...
Run DMC was really the standard for it. Later it would become Gangstar. Later it would become Tribe Called Quest. Later you fell in love with what Dre and them did, right? But this was so early. Dre... We're sitting there for 5 hours vibing, and he plays this record for me. All right, man, I got a record I want you to hear. Tell me what you think. And Freddy Krueger, those movies were out. Remember the Freddy Krueger movies?
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, so he played this song, Freddy, Freddy, Freddy. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is dope. That's so dope. And he said, play this other one, deem, doom, doom, deem, doom. And I'm like, yeah, that's all right. You got to put the Freddy Krueger record out. Well, they put Boys in the Hood out, and you know the rest of the story. That happened like 2 or 3 months after. So he was making those when we were there. It was all right at the beginning, man. So
looking back on that, what do you think? I mean, obviously, have you shared the story with other people before? Or?
Not that many people know this story. Like when I told my daughter, it's like, Dad, you never told us none of that. I'll explain why, but I had to divorce music, man. So I stopped telling these stories.
You know, it's crazy, man. We have so many like iconic. We have people in Oceanside that have done so much, like have had these iconic moments. One of the last podcasts we had, L, who's a photographer, and he actually he created the actual cover for Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. From Oceanside,
brother.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good.
And so it's like you even sharing this right now. It's like, man, we got so much history here.
Well, I think what's important to note is hip hop kind of took off. Both on the West Coast, it was fun to track it, but the East Coast hip hop, I mean, it was so much more established. Everyone on the West idolized the East. They just were better, right? We had our style. It was different, but at that time, we didn't have an identity on the West Coast. And the rap me like Egyptian Lover and that stuff, it was just kind of whack. Rodney O was cool because Rodney O and Joe Cooley, it was good. But there was a need for what Dre and Ice Cube and Snoop and Dub C and those cats did. They kind of gave us a real identity with the gangster rap stuff, and ultimately embracing funk, really, versus jazz, which was honestly what I was really trying to do, man. I was like in the jazzy boom bap. That was me. And so Tribe and Tribe Called Quest and Gangstar and those kind of cats were who I was really like. Black Moon, later Wu-Tang, but after all that stuff I named, that's what I was trying to do. So I was kind of out of place in Cali. All the rappers I dealt with were from back east. So eventually I decided, you know, I signed to Warner Brothers later, so I did a couple of other records. That group, we continued working together, but I started producing other rappers here in Oceanside because my heart was always to try and blow Oceanside up. I loved Oceanside, man. I still love Oceanside. I'm all about Oceanside. And I thought I was going to bring light to the city through music. And so I worked with this kid, MC Tees. Terry still lives here in Oceanside, and he was one of the best Oceanside rappers that never really did much. But he had a big influence on people like Baby Lope. That whole crew, Baby Lope was hanging around us. He was a little younger. I ran into him recently, and we got to catch up. And that was very cool. But these guys were blazing a trail. And then eventually we all kind of came together as what was called the Damn Posse, Def Audio Masters. And we made a tape, which is what you did back then. That kind of, people have called us the San Diego Wu-Tang, before there was a Wu-Tang. We kind of permeated into a bunch of different pieces of the San Diego hip hop scene. And I was producing a bunch of San Diego cats by now. LPSD, probably my favorite San Diego rapper is a kid named Icy Lee, who's in prison right now. But cold, man. I'll play some cuts for you. Cold, like skills, right? But Mos Dash from my crew, Ja Jules from my crew, and Kev the Blade Gordon, who just came out with another record. He's still doing it. My production partner, Just Unique, who's moved to the Bay Area. I was telling you about that earlier. We started producing these cats, so eventually we did a publishing deal with Warner Brothers, BMI affiliate, and we kind of moved our thing to LA. And at the time, I think we were the first San Diego rap producers, anyone that signed in LA, a real LA company. And shortly after that, Vicious Beat was a group in San Diego, and that kid Marvin that was in my first group signed to Vicious Beat, so he had me produce his records. I got to go on tour with them, 45 states in 35 cities in 45 days. It was crazy, man. Yeah, it was crazy. We did a tour like that. And I got to realize how dope Oceanside was. Oceanside's dope, man.
What do you mean by that?
In every way. The ethnic diversity, the weather, the chill, laid-back attitude, the trouble you can find if you want to find it, the trouble you can avoid if you want to avoid it. Oceanside's the only place I want to live. I don't want to move to Temecula for a bigger house. I don't want to move to Carlsbad to be in a safer neighborhood. I want to be in the O. I appreciate that I live in South O and I can have a 64 Impala in my front yard and no one's going to jack it. I like that because that's the only thing I have left from music, man. I bought a 64 Impala from a Bosoleto when I signed to Warner, and that's the only thing I have left.
You kept it?
I still got it. I'm painting it right now.
What was the deal like? I mean, like how many years? Like what was the production deal?
It was a publishing deal. That's the real deal. Keep your publishing rights, brother.
Yeah, her publishing's extremely important.
Keep your publishing rights. So when I signed to Warner Chappell, man, I went up there, and there's a that was Virgin. There's a Prince record, 8 times platinum. There was a Madonna record on the wall. I'm sitting in the waiting room, and 6 times platinum. But then when they took me down the hall, there was like 50 Chattanooga Choo Choo plaques. So when we get to the A&R guys, do you remember M. Toomey, the Juicy Fruit? Yeah. Okay. Well, that song, the M. Toomey's brother is the one that signed me at Warner Brothers. So I said, hey man, what's up with those Chattanooga Choo Choo records? He says, listen, their great grandkids are getting paid. Because when you write something, that's how you get paid. You write a song, if you produce the record and you write the lyrics, you're 50-50 owners of the song. And so every time it's played, back then, it's different now, but back then, if it's played on the radio, you get like 30 cents a minute on a power format like Power 106 or 90.3. You get 30 cents a minute times 10 plays a day times 1,500 power formats. Who's gonna collect your money? BMI or ASCAP. So the publishing deal I had was with Warner Brothers BMI affiliate. Every time it's played in a movie, you collect $800, right? So this is industry stuff that's not a secret, but people are signing their publishing rights away and getting robbed. But thankfully, there's a graffiti writer in our crew whose sister went to Berkeley and was an attorney at a major firm, so she kept our papers right. That's how we made it through 7 years without any problems. I still got sued once. You know, it happens. I got sued because MCA didn't pay for a record bill, so I had to pay that off.
So you ended up going to different labels after that? Or?
No. Your publishing deal, I'm glad you're asking this because it's so different now. You guys can like jump on social media and put your stuff out. You had to go through a record company back then because you couldn't get publishing, you couldn't get distribution rights without it. It was really hard. So I was signed, so whatever I did, whatever record I did for Virgin Records, for MCA Records, for whatever record company, my name and Warner Chappell, which is the BMI affiliate, was on that record because they basically managed my publishing. And for that, I would get an upfront amount of money, so a nice check, once a year, as long as I met a song commitment. I had an 8-song commitment per year. I had to land 8 songs on major albums, major produced albums. And if I did that, I'd get a little more money the next year. And that money was supposed to pay for me to live, that I could just create. And that's how it worked. As a matter of fact, I haven't had a year yet working here at Oceanside High that's paid my last year, 25 years ago in music. But it just costs a lot of money to make that money. You know, you're constantly traveling and grinding and doing your thing. And I was spending a lot of money trying to blow Dago up, trying to blow Oceanside up, really.
So with that being said, how do you feel about the gentleman on your right? Because I feel like he's definitely doing that.
Light on the O. You know, there's a lot of good rappers in Oceanside, but not just what Desi's doing, my former TA here at Oceanside High.
How'd you guys meet? How did you meet Coach Z? Because he was Coach Z, right? He wasn't DJ Frank Z.
Yeah, no, I met Coach Z. I had an elective class my senior year, so I took AvCom, you know, because it seemed like something to do, you know. All the ladies would have to go there to check their books out, so why not? You know what I'm saying? Do you see, right? The classes would come and there would be a line outside and you'd be able to like check everybody's books out. But if there was a pretty girl, you know what I'm saying, you go holler at her and shit. So for me, it was kind of like, to be honest with you, AvCom was like a chill space compared to like the rest of Oceanside High. And being like I guess you would say like an assistant to Coach Z, it was more like, he was like more, I knew him as like more of like, I don't know, like he wasn't like a teacher. Like,
did you know he was
more
a DJ?
So, no, I didn't. That's the thing. Like I had met him from having a class with him. I didn't know him as a coach, because he was coaching soccer. But I only knew him as like from my class. But for the most part, he was like always like good vibes, and it was like a class that I would always go to get away from like everything else. I'm not gonna lie, I even went to his class a couple of times to cut class to his class, and I don't know if he knew that. But
when you met him, were you already doing music? 'Cause you started doing music here, so were you already doing music then?
Yeah. So I started doing music in middle school.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I never wanted to show anybody, like teachers or people that were any type of authority.
Until he found out. And I forget how you found out.
Yeah, no, one day, like, he just, like, spilled the beans about everything, you know? And then I gave him a CD, like, one of my CDs that I was, like, passing out to the other, like, students and stuff like that.
You said you used to give them out for free out here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he probably was one of the first, like, teachers that I gave my CD to.
I remember that. I still got it. Hey, coach, check this out. I'm trying. I said, oh, you got bars, huh? Really? Okay. And I didn't listen to it for like a week. He asked me every day. Because I put music in a different place. But then he kept asking me. So I went ahead and listened to it. I was like, man, brother's got skills.
How many students have given you CDs over the years? Or
not many people know. Not many people know. But I started hearing him talk about what he was doing with music. And I forget what pried it open, but I told him. I let him know. And sometimes in my class, I would tell a story. So what happened, if I can digress a bit, I was producing these cats at Dago. And I did this record for this kid, Mystery. And the record test marketed 670,000 copies, which is gold plus. And it was played on 4 power formats. The record company that signed him did that, Do the Diddy, what's that kid?
Paperboys?
Yeah, Paperboy. It was Paperboy's record label signed him. So he did a couple shows with Paperboy. Paperboy signed me to do his next album because I did some fat beats for this kid, Mystery, man.
So it's like what? This is like
94, 93, 94. And so he goes on the Old English 800 tour and catches stage fright. I put 4 months into this kid's record, and I was making back then $2,500 a beat in 94.
Damn, at that time, that's some bread.
That was bread back then.
That's some bread.
I mean,
minimum wage was like $4.25 at that time.
It was $6.70. I know.
94?
It was $6.70.
$6.70, okay.
You know why I know that? Because when I left music, I took a minimum wage job. I'll get to that in a minute. So I take this kid, I do this record, he catches stage fright. I got paid for 2 records because they put the single out. I had 8 more that I delivered. I didn't get paid on because they dropped him because he caught stage fright. That day, when I found out they dropped...
So it's Paperboy?
No, this was the Mystery Kid.
Oh, okay.
Next up was Paperboy. I was already doing his beats, right? I did 4 for him, and we hadn't gone to the studio yet. And my son says, "Dad, let's go to McDonald's." And I told myself, my friend, I don't know when I told you, I don't know if I told you on the mic today, but my best friend was Junior Sale. He was the best man at my wedding. And June was making like $4 or $5 million a year at the Chargers. And I said, "June, man, how much does your life cost?" And he said, 300 racks, 300,000, right? So I said, okay, that's my goal. I'm gonna get to 300,000 before my son turns 5. And if I can't get there, I'm gonna drop music. And that day I lost about 20 G's when they dropped him. I lost 20 G's right there in that decision. And my son's like, "Dad, let's go to McDonald's." I had like $250 on me. Because the record business, it was bad, man. I mean, you had to work to get paid. So you'd go nothing for 3 or 4 months, then get a $10,000 check, and then nothing for 2 months and get $20,000 check. And I'm 20, man, I'm like early mid-20s, man, trying to manage that money and fly to New York, fly to the Bay. I had no manager or anyone like that. I was managing myself. I had a lawyer protecting my paper, making sure the checks were coming. I wasn't married yet. I had 2 kids by then. When he asked me that, I said, "Man, he's 5 next month." I dipped from music. I quit cold turkey. I walked. Over the next year, I gave all my equipment away and I stopped listening to music because it hurt. I gave up my first love because I love my son. I'm proud of that. But, it's a little emotional because at the end of the day, it was the best decision I could make. It it was the only decision I could make. I had to raise my son. And so when you gave me that CD, I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't want to let you down. But I eventually broke down and listened to it, and then I put it away. I just didn't listen to music for like 7 years. I couldn't listen to music and just listen to it. Right now, you're playing some beats. I'm breaking them down. Did he play that? Oh man, he's using the drum machine, the transport. Okay, it's just what you do, right? Listen to that home part. Okay, that's a good turnaround. You just don't listen to music the same after you make it, and so it became like I was a dope fiend, man, for music. So I basically dropped music, and the only other thing I loved was soccer. So I came to the high school, and I got a job working security for $6.70 an hour. That's how I know what the minimum wage was. And it was very humbling to do that. But my girl was on welfare, making more money than I was making working, which was also humbling. But I flipped it. It's taking some time. Doing okay now. But that was a very, very humbling transition for me. And I walked away from the Paperboy stuff. I walked away from Warner. If I wanted to make a beat for you, we talked about that.
Yeah.
I would have to go back and make up my commitment because Warner still owns me, right? Until I fulfill that last year of commitment. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on my agreement, but I have no interest in going back. I've moved on, and I started coaching soccer, and so that's what I'm doing now.
So you come here as a security guard. When did you start teaching here? Because you said that you were able to you taught here without having like.
So the good news about post-secondary education is that there's graduates that graduate from school, but there's also a certificate program. So when I was failing in college at Miracosta, I wasn't failing the music courses I was taking. And so my professor even had me coming in and doing lectures on digital, well, back then we called it MIDI music, right? Back then MIDI controlled everything. This was pre-digital recording. This was before Pro Tools. This was early digital music. So he said, hey, Frank, listen, man, if you'll come back and take these courses, because you're helping me teach them, you can get the certificate and just I'll help you through it. So I come back and I bust some things out. There was a couple challenging courses. There was 2 courses that were really important. Human Relations in Business, which I used throughout my music career, and an Electronics for Audio and Video. But then I got a completion certificate. So when I left music, a couple years later, that certificate qualified me for an audiovisual job here at Oceanside High. So within 6 months of taking a security job, I was able to take the AV job, which I still have. Then they found out about my background in LA. I figured how, and the principal at the time said, wow, we need a video teacher. You want to teach video? I mean, I worked on some music videos. I don't know anything about video. But yeah, whatever. How do I do that though? I don't have a degree. She goes, Frank, your time in LA will qualify you to teach a vocational ed class. So I hand filled out this application thinking it would never happen. It was the only hand application I ever filled out, and they granted me a teaching credential. Crazy, man. I had basically 6 months of formal, like, baccalaureate college and about an 18-month music certificate from Miracosta College, and they're letting me teach. The No Child Left Behind came out, and that promised that students will have highly qualified teachers. So the state said, all right, you want to keep teaching, you got 5 years to graduate and go back and get your degree. So I made a decision to not let them take teaching from me, so I went back and I found a program at San Diego State that honored my time in LA because it was legitimate. I had to track it. I had to pull out contracts and show them all the records I did. They gave me 35 units for my time in LA. So that plus 5 years of night school, and I graduated with honors after getting kicked out of Miracosta.
And meanwhile, your kids are going through elementary school, middle school, and all of that.
Yeah, man. Actually, my son had already graduated from high school. And my daughter graduated the year I graduated. My goal was to graduate before she did, so I could actually wear a black gown at her graduation here at the high school. That was cool. I liked that. That was dope. So, yeah. So the thing that I think was really tough though was I had to bury music to do it though, because it just was calling me always. I wouldn't listen to radio. I listened to like talk show stuff. Sometimes I'd listen to Christian radio. Believe it or not, man, I love Jesus, so I just distracted myself from listening to regular music, pop music, hip hop. I just kind of divorced myself. I missed most of Wu-Tang's contribution until later when I finally got over it and went back, because that was around the time Wu-Tang came out. And I missed that whole next like 7 years of music, man. I had to reconstruct what happened in LA from like Snoop's third album until I came back to music. I just missed it. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Can you imagine both of you, because you produce, can you imagine being away from music for 7 years? Like, it was longer, right? You said 7 years?
That's such a long time. To not do music at all. To not listen to music at all.
I mean,
or
you
even
know,
give it attention.
you listen to music, but I didn't listen to music. If I was with somebody, I'd let them turn the radio on. But nah, I couldn't do it, man.
It's actually crazy how you said, you know, you didn't listen to music the same way like other people would listen to it. Like you'd be like thinking about, oh, what did they do there? Do everything there. So like, I feel like I can relate to you like on that level. Because as soon as I really started going hard and like trying to make music, trying to perfect things, trying to make sure that my stuff sounds pristine, I started listening to beats or songs, regular songs, and I'd be like, I don't like this because this snare doesn't sound, it doesn't please my ears or something, instead of just taking it for what it is and
well, you have
something.
A different relationship because every sound, snare, kick, drum, bass, patch, do you still call them patches?
Yeah, we a little bit, but I don't really call them
whatever
patches.
the say. So anyway, anything you want, it's at your fingertips electronically.
Yeah.
Where, bro, I'm telling you, you had to work with what you had, or you had to sample it, right? And so, like making the funk records I did, like the Mystery record or the Gangsta Earn record, you take a hand clap and a 808 snare and a sample of 3 or 4 other things and just made it funky, right? But if you were doing like the boom bap from the East Coast, it's some very specific snares that worked or they didn't work. And so, you know, everything was on a 3.5 floppy disk back then, man. That's so crazy, right? And I mean, if my production partner moved to the Bay Area, so we're overnight expressing 3.5 floppy disks to each other, man. It was kind of crazy. But, you know, I want to go back, though, because I was listening to your guys' podcast, getting ready for this, and you were interviewed Junior Boogaloo, who was my friend and all throughout my life.
He was with Junior yesterday.
Yeah,
Junior pulled up to his music video.
There you go.
Junior Boogaloo is a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a good friend.
He's someone also, man, who has like a very legendary career in what he does. And internationally, like, even when we were prepping for that interview, I was like, Desi's like, yeah, man, we're going to have a lot of people from Japan and China tapping into this. But because of the influence that he has overseas, and, you know, you go on YouTube and then you start seeing, like, the impact he has had. And really, he was kind of like, man, this dude was like a historian when it comes to a lot of, like, things when it came to Oceanside or
For sure.
the dance culture.
Well, let me just tell you, what you didn't see was him at 16 killing it. Oh, that brother was so good, man. So I won't say a whole lot about Junior Boogaloo, but I will say this. There was this club in Dago called Stratus. We would all go to Stratus. It was in Spring Valley. And DJ Jam, do you guys know who DJ Jam is? DJ Jam DJ'd for Snoop Dogg and he still has a show. As a matter of fact, he asked to interview me last week too. So I'm gonna do an interview with him on this radio station in a couple weeks. But Jam was the DJ at Stratus and was like San Diego's DJ. He was 19 or 20, and the Junior and a bunch of his crew would go down and battle these fools at Stratus. But whenever it was up here, I was normally DJing it. And man, we had skills up here. There were some brothers here, man. Junior Boogaloo, Stomo, a bunch of cats that could dance, man. But Junior Boogaloo had that, man, he had that pop lock tut. I mean, the pop, he could tut like nobody.
He has it now.
Bro, man, he was
still has
freaking crazy, man. I was so proud of Junior, right? Like that's the O right there. It was, but anyway, Junior dropped the name Maddie Stones, and I was transformed, man. When I was watching the podcast, I hadn't heard Maddie Stone's name in years. So I did this record for this pretty famous gangster rap record in San Diego for this kid named Gangsta Earn. And he's from the 5'9" Brims, Ocean View, Southeast San Diego blood gang. And so I met this kid through some guys I did a record for, and just a legit gangster. I mean, in every way you can think. But a good brother, man. He was really good to me, and he introduced me to, just because we were hanging out doing his record. I saw a lot, man. I saw a lot of crazy stuff. Music took me throughout every neighborhood in Oceanside, and then it took me through a bunch of neighborhoods in San Diego safely. It was like my passport. You know what I mean? Music was like the way that you could break down doors and open doors and not have a problem. But man, I saw some crazy stuff, man.
You know who said that too was we had DJ Rec on, and DJ Rec grew up on Fireside in the Mid Valley, where Desi's from, and he said the same. As a producer, he said the same thing. He was with Mitchie Slick, going to San Diego, going to Los Angeles, here in Oceanside. Everyone knew him as a producer or DJ, and he was able to like just function in different spaces during the '90s, which was a hectic time in Oceanside, and not have any issues.
Crazy. I moved Earn here for part of the record, and there was some trouble here while he was here. You know, he's just a alpha. You know what I mean? And it just never. I mean, you know, you're never truly safe, right? When you have a real OG like that around, but it never even crossed my mind, man. That's just my brother Earn, man.
You know what? I was not. But one thing that I found out before we started, just like the roots of where we're at right now, knowing that he started music here, I didn't know that he produced EBT Boy, which is your biggest song, while you were in high school, right?
That's so dope.
So that video has what, 7 million?
Yeah, EBT Boy was out of a selected handpicked couple beats that he sent me. When I met him one day, I came to a football game, and then I was sitting down in the bleachers, and he approached me and gave me his SoundCloud link. Isn't it crazy?
What year was this? So this was like...
Man, this was like 2015 or
so
2000. Yeah, I was like a junior in high school.
And by the way,
so.
Like national level shot put, discus, track and field guy. Like,
yeah.
I didn't know him as a record producer. He was an athlete. He didn't know me as a record producer. I was a coach. I found out today he made beats.
So you were his teacher or you were his coach?
I was just
I was,
one of the
you just knew him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was in Mr. Rue's class, and it was right next to the AVCOM building. Yeah. Mr. Rue's was like the Photoshop guy, yeah.
So at this time, Desi pulls up to the Oceanside game. Obviously, you know he does music.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
he was just sitting there. Walked up to him, and I was just like, man.
And you started playing your beats for him?
No, I didn't play beats for him, but I was just like, yo, like, my name's Fully. I was Fully Beats at the time. I was like, yo, my name's Fully Beats. I go here at Oceanside, man.
So dope.
I really want to do music with you. Like, can I send you some beats? And he was like, yeah, for sure, bro. You know,
low tone voice.
He was like, oh yeah, that's crazy, bro. Yeah, for sure, I got you.
But the thing about me is that like when people send me things, I check them out so I don't forget. Usually I'll check them out, you know, as soon as possible. But at that time, I was watching the game. I had my headphones in my pocket, so I just threw my headphones on and I listened to almost his whole SoundCloud catalog while I was watching the game, and I picked a couple of them. I remember I sent him a couple that I wanted, and he sent them over, and I created majority of my Stay Current album he produced.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And then he also produced EBT Boy, and then I created that song, and it did what it did.
So being in high school and having the Stay Current album out, how was that for you? especially like having EBT Boy out, and you're like a junior in high school.
I mean, I think it was very cool because a lot of people knew who Desi was naturally because, you know, we're in Oceanside High School. So they were like, yo, like, you made that? Like, I was like, yeah. You know, I'll be making beats here and there, you know, the vibe. And I just thought it was like, I don't know. It kind of just made me be like, all right, I think I'm going to do music because, like, there's an artist here, one of the biggest artists in Oceanside, like, likes my beats. Like, if that ain't fire, then
but
I
not
don't know
just
what
that though.
is.
Like the songs like that we've made, they've all done really good. So there has to be some type of chemistry that's going on between us two. So, like after that album, I had him produce a couple more beats for me, but we've always kept in touch, and I think we're due for another session to make some more things. But no, for sure, like he had. I'm not gonna. I mean, like he had some amazing beats. He had some amazing beats.
EBT Boy is like, that's your biggest song.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah. And the thing about him is that he was doing like a different sound of trap, you know, and it was at a perfect moment where I was making lyrical trap, and they just blended so well. But
Did he do catch up?
yeah, he did do catch up.
So you did catch up, and he did the voiceover on the video.
You did?
You know I did the
Yeah, I did catch up, yeah.
That's
I
such a
remember
crazy
that. I remember
story.
that, actually. That was nuts. I think we made that. No, I sent that to you. I thought that was at J-Rose.
And on Drace's jersey, you wore on Drace's jersey out on
In
the
the video.
field. That shoot. Yeah, I
was
remember
fire.
that. Yeah, I remember
Y'all
that.
didn't even plan. We didn't even plan it. That's crazy.
No, man, it was funny because Danny, MadStrange Danny, calls me up and says, Coach, man, he played for me here. So did Andres, by the way. Shout out Andres. Yeah. So he said, Coach, man, I want to come do a video shoot with Dez at the game tonight. We were playing.
Did you know him as Desi, or you know him as?
Yeah, I knew him as Desi. I mean, you know, that's all I know him as now. So, so I said, yeah, come on up. And so he said, I want to come on the field and shoot. And we had this crazy game with the team from LA, and it was a crazy game. So then Danny calls me and says, I want to shoot this whole video about the game, and we'll get up on the gym, and you got the iconic shots up on the gym. I was like, remember that?
Man, let me tell you about that shot. So that was around the time where we were very like risky. So we brought a ladder. We took the MadStrange truck. We took the MadStrange truck and we went to the shop and we picked up the big old ladder, and we came over here, and then we just put a ladder up and we just got to the roof.
He said last podcast, he was like, yeah, bro, we used to shoot at these construction sites. Before we got kicked out, we'd go in there real quick, get a shot. And did.
But we definitely had to get that shot because of like the whole mural of Oceanside, like that, man.
That's one of my favorite shots in all
Man.
the videos. I love that shot, man.
That the voiceover is in Center Street, right? They're catching Center Street before they come to the game.
So,
the voiceover of that
so
song, right?
the player, there's a kid named Roach that lives over there in Center Street,
Yeah.
Crown Heights, and he scores this crazy goal. It was a overtime goal to win the game. So what Danny did was Danny decided to build the build-up backwards. He filmed it all backwards based on that goal. So he came to practice, and he filmed us practicing, and Roach scored a goal, and he told Roach, hey, do the same celebration you did the other day in the goal, which was dope. I started seeing Danny's vision for the video, right? So then he calls me and he says, Coach, man, what are you doing? I said, I'm up in LA for a conference. He said, well, I'm in LA too, man. He was going to school there.
This when he was at UCLA or
Yeah,
USC?
USC. So I said, look, I'm at this, I'm by the Staples Center at this hotel. My conference starts at 8 in the morning. Meet me at 7. We'll go to the bar because it's closed. And he brought a Zoom recorder just like that one. That's the first time I'd seen one, by the way, right? And he said, do a pregame speech. And I said, about what? And he said, well, talk about Roach's neighborhood. And so that's what I did. Just bam, busted it out.
I've used it, and I didn't know that was your voice, but I've used it for things before.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I mean, honestly, Danny is very gifted, and I loved how he let that very meaningful goal become the story. He went to Roach's house, kissing his mom goodbye, coming to school. It was really, I love that video, actually.
Thinking about your story too, like how you said, I remember I heard Kobe before he passed away. He was in an interview. He was talking about like, man, like if I'm successful at what I'm doing, people won't really remember me as the Kobe, the basketball player. They're going to remember me for the second half of my career. And thinking about how you were successful in music and seeing how you've had influence, because I've heard your name, like Andres, you know, who's created MadStrange. This was his vision, created here at Oceanside High School. Daniel, his brother, like they speak very highly of you. Desi has as well. And like just, those are just people I'm proximate to. You know what I mean? But I can't even imagine like the seeds of hope and like the nuggets you have found in people and pulled them out. And like, you know, that gold, as a mentor, you pull out those nuggets of gold that sometimes people don't see in themselves and your players. Like to think that you had this successful individual music career and you wanted to lift up San Diego and lift up Oceanside, but you've done that by pouring into others and like seeing the fruit that's come out. Like,
I have to be honest, I can't take any credit for what they've done. It's been very, very enjoyable today to hear about you, knowing you only as an athlete, tapping out beats. I know all those songs you did for him. I didn't know you did them. That just fills my heart, man. 'Cause that's really cool, man. You know? But honestly, man, I live vicariously through this brother right here because I know him so well. And he's doing something. I actually texted Danny this the other day. Danny, thank you for keeping hip-hop alive. Because hip-hop, you can still say it's on its deathbed. There's a lot of people that misunderstand what that culture meant to us. I mean, that subculture, like the punk subculture, was so dirty and grimy and needed to be that to exist. And then it got cleaned up and polished, but it lost its beauty, you know? And I think that hip hop has, in a lot of ways, not rap music, but hip hop, right, has really kind of ceased to exist in a lot of ways. But West Coast hip hop and West Coast gangster rap and West Coast funk and all that, I think it's kind of hitting this cool rhythm, man. You know, West Coast rappers are becoming very good. And part of my research for today, there's like 10 rappers on a cut. MadStrange. Oceansideism. There's some flavor. I can't wait to, when this is over, I'm gonna ask you about 9 of those cats. I'm listening to these cats going, is that all from my city? Like, for real? Like, I was blown away at the quality of their skills, right? It just didn't used to exist in Cali. It was kind of depressing. I went back east for a while. Pitch was gonna consider signing me, right? But I wasn't West Coast enough for them. I was more East Coast than they wanted me to be. And that blew me away, right? They wanted that West Coast flavor out there. That's when I started doing West Coast. I was like, wow, really? That's kind of a, then the best part about that meeting is I got 2 copies of everything in the vault. They opened the vault and said, take doubles of everything. I came back with a record collection that people would hire me $100 to do a set with just those records and no one had them. Like La T and the 900 number, right? Everyone knows that, but how many people know Gangstar's first album and La T? Look that up. It's crazy hip hop stuff. But what does that mean to the West? Not much. The West has its own thing. And honestly, the funk records you've been doing, Des, it's super important, man. It's super important. Having the Lowriders back in videos, super important, right? Speaking and paying homage to what was happening 20 years ago is really important. But doing it in a fresh 2022 way is really important. You know what I mean? Appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you. I think the most important part about my music is that I've listened to and soaked up a lot of like ideas and influences and melodies from a lot of older music that really gives me the chance to like kind of like refresh it and give people that old nostalgic sound back. But then I can always put my twist to it. So, you know, there was always at one point where I feel like funk music was almost like the biggest genre. And then it kind of like faded away. But I think that there's room for like another like wave of that funk. And I think it's I see like a lot more people creating funk, and it's coming back. It's coming back for sure. So I'm just happy to be able to be in that lane to push it to where it's gonna be.
I got you on so many playlists right now. If I ever come back to DJing, I'm blasting a bunch of those things. And as a matter of fact, I got to get instrumentals of them so I can play them in my pregame here.
Oh yeah,
because I'm not trying to play lyrics in my pregame, Andres. I'm not gonna do it, man. But you know the other thing that if I ever did come back, I would be sampling again, getting sued, because that's what I did, and I'd be doing all oldies, man, because that's the one thing I didn't get to do. I wanted to flip oldies, like the real oldies that we listen to. I would love to flip Sly Slick Wicked. I would love to flip Crystal Blue Persuasion. I would love to flip those cuts. I've got ways in my brain that I want to do it, and I can't get that out of my head, but I'm not going to do it because I know I'll probably lose my jobs and my family, and I'm such a...
But speaking about that, man, you like the research that I did, because everyone's talked, Coach Z, Coach Frank Z, and like what you've done, but you're an entrepreneur too. So when I say the game's to be sold, not told, what does that mean to you?
That's a line from Gangsta Earn's record that I did called Up Against It. And what he was talking about was the gangster game, right? They used to call me Gangster Frank. I am not a gangster, man. I have nothing to do with that. I was a music dude, but Gangster Frank, I used to laugh at that, right? But I had some experiences with that, and I'll say this one. There was two Mexican mafia cats, I'm gonna leave nameless, that did a lot of work with Gangsta Earn. And here's how I met them. One day Earn comes over to my house with $22,000 wrapped in cellophane. Gangsta Frank, I need you to hold this for me. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I pop my Impala trunk open, sitting right in my driveway of my mom's house, and I put it in a bag and zip the bag and close it up and say, all right. 2 days later at 3 a.m, bam, 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 bam. Wake up. I'm like, damn, what's up? Where's the money? And there's these two Mexican cats with them. Where's the money? I'm like, oh man, it's right here where I left it. Asshole. These fools were testing me, right? They wanted to see if they could trust me. That was the whole purpose of that. For the next month, they had me down in National City doing records for a couple different cats. I saw a lot that I have to tell you, make sure that I'm never going to be a gangster. That just wasn't for me, right? But that they let me in to see that it brought a relevancy to some things that I was never a part of to help me later in life with mentoring young people, with understanding. I mean, honestly, if I don't go show up at work, I'm not going to eat. And showing up and clocking in for these brothers was selling drugs or boosting a car or whatever it was, right? And you have to respect that grind. If you come from Oceanside, it's not real hard, especially in the time I grew up. In the 70s and 80s, it was grimy, man. I had knife pulled on me twice here at Oceanside High. And I had no reason for it to happen. It just happened here, constantly, on the regular. I had knife pulled on me working at Mike's Liquor with my pops, right? Me and my pops getting down with these Marines trying to rob. It was crazy. Oceanside was crazy. Prostitutes, he-she's, bleeders, donating their blood, getting paid in $2 bills to come buy port wine, just wrecking their life. And I have to say, that all contributed. My time with music, being exposed to what these fellas exposed me to, my time with my pops, realizing that having my pops in the house was big. And now I'm a security guard and I'm at the high school and the only thing I know is soccer. I gotta try and help these fools out. Because soccer sucked when I was here, man. It was terrible, man. We were terrible. And I just felt like, okay, if I couldn't blow up music for Oceanside, or if I couldn't blow Oceanside up through music, then the only thing I got left is soccer. So you know what? Let's blow that up. And so I decided that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna blow up Oceanside through this and let somebody else handle the music and let somebody else handle whatever, but I'm gonna do it through soccer. And thankfully, man, when I got my girlfriend pregnant, right before I signed to Warner Brothers, I remember asking God, man, why? This is gonna wreck my life. This just put a clock on my music career.
Thinking about your child.
Yeah, because I gotta love him. I gotta do for him what my pops did for me. So 10 years later, one of my players knocks on my door in AVCOM and says, hey, coach, man, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, yeah, come in. I said, what's up? And he said, my girlfriend's pregnant. And I closed the door and I said, hold on. And I looked out the window and I'm like, that's why. Yeah. You know, when you experience things, whether firsthand like I did with my kid or vicariously through other people, right? It feeds your ability to truly dig deep and mentor them. So I set out to try and use soccer to impact kids' lives and prepare them for their future, man. And the entrepreneur only came because then eventually it takes money to live. Right. So frankly, that's where that came from. Yeah, I got a beach soccer business I run, and I do some other things, and I have 3 jobs because I'm still hustling, you know. But I just want to try and help young people at this point in my life, specifically young people from the O.
Yeah, and you're doing it, man. You got Andres here, who set this whole thing up. You know what I mean? It's like, who's been, you know, kind of pushing us and fueling this MadStrange brand, like, and he speaks so highly of you. And in a way, they're putting on Oceanside on the map, and they have put Oceanside on the map.
In a big way.
Big way. So
in a big way.
Did you ever think it'd be one of your students? Did you ever think it'd be Andres?
You know what? I was telling Andres earlier, we were looking for a pen to write this on the board. And I was like, man, you know, you always had this crazy confidence, right? This crazy confidence. That's why the girls liked you. He goes, yeah, the girls like that. But
he
had
definitely
this,
like that.
Yeah. He and I were chopping it up a little bit about, I saw that in his mom's, the way she carried. Danny carries that too, this very quiet confidence, like, you know what, I got that. You might not think I got it, but I got that. So this doesn't surprise me. The quality of it and the level, I have to admit, it's kind of unprecedented, man. What you and Danny are doing, really, with MadStrange, I brag about it all the time.
And then to know that you had that, he gave you his CD, and then when they connected, because you met them all individually at different times.
Yeah, so exactly, and that I had this little tiny part of getting to know them, but they did it, right? They did it, and so it's really cool.
Yeah, I knew Coach Z before I knew MadStrange, you know, being his student, and then it's just crazy that I met Coach Z first, and then I met MadStrange at your
Parents' house.
right. Yeah. So everything is pretty much connected, man. Like everything is everybody in this room is like has a connection.
It really is like a family. You know what I mean? There's like there's roots to like why we move the way that we do.
Oceanside is like that. Yeah. And, you know, the family can extend because that name that Junior Boo dropped, Matty Stones. Yeah. Matty Stones is from the Brams, where I'm from. I used to DJ the 5-9 parties, May 9th, at Oceansview Park. And when I left music and I got the security job, man, I swore Matty Stones was going to get me fired. He got out of the pen, and he comes walking up here with these long braids, hanging out, and we're sitting at my gate playing chess, and he beat me 5 times in 20 minutes because that penitentiary chess game ain't no joke.
Dudes that come from the pen, bro, like, yeah. You know.
And so, but that's family, because he's got family in Deep Valley. Yeah. Mercedes Sale and June were talking about that. And so our family can be extended too, right. But it always comes back to the O. And the thing is once you're from Oceanside, man, I mean, Junior said it really well. Junior Boogaloo said it really well. He's lived all over the world. This is the best place in the world. I believe that. I believe that, especially if you can live near the 5. Sorry, Valley people. If you can live near the 5, you got the best climate. You got the best of everything in the world. You drive 10 minutes that way, Man, I got to run practice at Manchester Buchanan Park. Man, it's hot, man. Mosquitoes come out.
I'm from Tri-City. You're from the mid, so we didn't live near the fire.
But all of Oceanside, is it's all family, and that's what you guys did when MadStrange started putting those hats and shirts out with the communities. Damn, bro, that was beautiful, man.
You know, they tried to shut Andres down for a minute. You couldn't sell your clothes here at Oceanside High School, huh? El Camino, yeah. I was at meetings. I was at a meeting one time. I was at a community meeting at OPD, and this was like 2013. And at that meeting, they're talking about how they can get the shirts, how they can get the stores from stop selling the MadStrange
Because
attire.
of the community stuff.
Because of the community stuff.
Yeah.
And I tagged Daniel, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm at this meeting. They're talking about how they can like go to the stores and put pressure on them to shut them down. He responded, he's like, oh, that's dope. As a businessman, he knew what that was gonna.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I
And sure enough, people wanted it after
when
that.
you can go
They
get
wanted
a
it.
hat that says Deep Valley, or you can get a hat that says, Mid Valley, come on, man. Like, as you call it, sections. I love that. I love that you said that in the interview. I heard you, each section of Oceanside. I'm like, that's good, man. And then when Baby Loke dropped South O, I'm like, my business cards when I signed to Warner Brothers, Frank Z, music production, South Oceanside, California.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like for me, the way that I've looked at it, it's like, yeah, I'm from Oceanside, but when you meet people, they're also proud of the section that they grew up in. Because there's history there. There's a lot of, there's a story to be told about each individual section. But also you take us up out of Oceanside and you put us anywhere else, like we're all from Oceanside, and there's a lot of pride to that. But there's pride about growing up in the section you grew up in.
Absolutely, man. I got a lot of pride. I love my life as a kid and as an adult in South O, and I'm proud of it. And it's hard work, man. I remember there was this cat from Pozole that used to be like, man, Frank's got all that equipment. Frank earned that equipment. Frank didn't get it from mom and dad. Frank worked for that equipment. I would DJ a party, make $100, and spend $200 on records the next day, and I was making $50 for a party. Man, it was crazy whack how much money you didn't make back then. DJs are making $5,000 for a party. I was making $50, man. Popping open a garage in the Tri-City, hoping that the fight didn't happen. But why did you set up in the garage? Because when the fight happened, you shut the garage door and keep your equipment safe.
Yo, it was a lot more work too, because you had to have all that equipment you needed. Now it's just like everything's digital.
Bro,
There ain't no craze for me.
I was doing sound for, right before the production, I was doing sound for Z90 for this concert series, and A Lighter Shade of Brown. I did Cypress Hill, House of Pain, right? It was right in the middle of that, and they got caught smoking weed, and they shut it down. I had to carry all my speaker stacks down these stairs, man. Like, I'm done doing those gigs, man.
Oh my God.
Man, I mean, we're trying to beat the federales right out, man. It was crazy, man. That was no fun. But then I when I look at, like, I didn't tell anyone this stuff. They didn't need to know that. It wasn't like I was hiding it. I became a coach, and my coaching life gave me flavor. I mean, my music life and my upbringing in Oceanside made me relevant. We were talking, and music came up because I was just trying to dig into who he was, because he was my TA. I was buying him a burrito once in a while, and that means I was okay, right? Once in a while I'd show up with a burrito, man. Every student's gonna like that, right? But it was just a genuine interest in him as a human being.
I think is it Creep It? You say, I think you quote that too, right? Or something like that. The games to be sold, not told.
Yeah. That is the correct song. Yes.
Yeah.
Jimmy. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm just It is though, right?
Yes, Jimmy, and that's a very good song. I'm glad.
No,
that
but
you
I'm not
pointed
saying
it out.
I'm saying that because Gangsta Ern says that, and then he shouts out. Right.
The line he said in that little break in the record was, no, actually it was a third party cat said, the game is to be sold, not told. So Gangsta E and Frank Z kick it in code, and so Gangsta E starts rapping in the.
It came to me, man, because he played it for me
code,
earlier.
man.
I was like, damn, where else have I heard? I mean, I've heard it, but I was like, where else have I heard
That's
that in
the
a
first
song?
record I'd ever heard it in.
And then I was like, oh, Desi has it in his new album.
There's a lot of talk about how Gangsta Ern influenced gangster rap in general. He was probably the first real, true gangster doing it like that. And he actually had bars. He could rhyme. He had his Southside tattooed on his chest. And, there's stories about some prominent rappers following in that flavor. But he was also just a good dude, man. He was really good to me, man. And I was thinking about this because I was thinking honestly about you when we were talking earlier. And one thing I didn't like about the Source magazine was they would write with Ebonics. And I thought to myself, man, when I was in the middle of my music career, why do we have to act like we're dumb, right? Like we could speak intelligently, and there's a lot of very smart people in music, man, right? So I think the ability to not feel like you have to put a persona on, to be a part of a certain whatever it is. We can chop it up. Turn the cameras off. We can chop it up. You guys got a taste of that earlier. I'm just a normal dude, right? But I can also go in front of the city council so I can get fields for the kids. I can also teach a class. I don't spell very well, but you don't know that because I've had to expand my vocabulary because I get frightened in front of a group because my spelling's bad. But I have 15 ways to say it, so it's just an opportunity to enhance my vocabulary, to say it about 10 different ways, so I can not have to spell something and misspell it. Juancho's laughing because I'd sit there on the board and I'd be rewriting something right there and making it up, and it just, like, we all have our anxieties and we all have things that intimidate us, but human beings shouldn't intimidate us just because, and I gotta tell you, man, if there's any privilege I got from having a white dad, is my white dad. They left Texas where I was born because, yeah, I know, you too, right? Yeah, so Texas, right? Yeah, so they left Texas because my mom and dad couldn't even get married in Texas because my dad was white, my mom was Mexican. And they didn't want to subject us to that profiling that's still prevalent in many parts of the South. And people don't think about the Mexicans' plight in that, but we're kind of stuck in the middle. I have a story, man, when my grandpa, when I was 15, took me to a brewery and they served free beer. When I was 15, they let me drink. But there was a white bar and a black bar. And if you were Mexican, you filled your cup and you stood in the hallway. And that's the Texas that I had to get out of. Thank God they got me out of it when I was 6 months old. But my dad gave me a gift that a lot of people with this skin color don't have. And he taught me not to recognize anything between me and what I wanted, right? So he taught me how to shake someone in the hand and look them in the eye and just be about it. And so I don't want to hear my players' excuses about what's standing between them and success. I didn't want to hear my rappers' excuses. Normally what kept them back was smoking too much weed or getting drunk and not controlling that, right? They would put barriers up. And I got frustrated with that because I'm not trying to let barriers hold me back. That's what I was talking about with Andres earlier. Is I don't think he recognizes barriers. He sees opportunity, right? And so for me, I don't want to feel intimidated. I remember when I got the security job, this English teacher was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so articulate." And I'm like, why the hell wouldn't I be? I was offended by that. Right. Why would you tell me that? Because I had some long hair and, I looked a little edgy at the time, you know what I mean? I'm just here to work and try to help these kids, and why wouldn't I be articulate? I was very offended by that. I don't think that most of us in Oceanside have that confidence. Most of my kids don't wear that swagger. They slink in the back of the classroom. They don't ask questions. That came from my pops. You recognize the obstacle and attack it. Then what came from my mom's, which is the gift a Mexican mother gives you, I think. And I think all mothers are great. But the Mexican mom, "You're great, mijo. You can do it, mijo. I believe in you, mijo." Right? And that combination of, this is the code to crack, son, and you can do it. So what's the next thing? Okay, coaching? All right, so that means I got to do this, I got to do that. We need fields. Let's go to the city council. You know what? We're going to round 500 kids up. We're going to show them our voting block. We're going to get this passed. We're going to do what we got to do. And you look up after 27 years of coaching, And I've accomplished some things, right? To what you're talking about. And I'm proud of that. But what I'm most proud of are what these former players and students are doing with what little bit you can pour into them, because it's really on them. They got to do it, man.
Well, just real quick on a set. Juancho was one of your students too?
Juancho is my best video student. Juancho is the best editor that came out of my video program.
Life of Juancho. I didn't know that.
Juancho's dope. Yeah, Juancho plays the dope music. I don't know who turned him on to that, because it wasn't me. But he does his first video and he's got the boom bap, and I'm like, Juancho. I think you guys call it lo-fi. We would call it acid jazz back in the day. And I was very impressed by that. So when he did that and he started editing to that, I'm like, I'm blowing Juancho up. I'm constantly getting Juancho gigs.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So you're listening to music now, right?
Yeah.
Who's like your top 5 artists that you...
Really? That I listen to?
Yeah, like right now, yeah.
Right now?
Yeah.
George Clinton and P-Funk. Dre. I mean, honestly, and Premier. And it's not a rapper they produce, it's them. I'm listening to those two because they represent the best of the West. And to me, Gangstar was the ultimate hip-hop group, rapper and MC. That's the best DJ, producer, MC combo that I could ever find. And Dre is just nasty with his ear, man, right? If you're gonna ask me someone current, because I haven't come current yet.
No, but you still, I mean, I still listen. Yeah. I still listen to live.
That's my stuff. My old school playlist, I'm proud of it, actually. Yeah. And then if I had to name one rapper from this current generation that I think that's not someone in this room or local, that if I had to name one, it's probably J. Cole. J. Cole's nasty, man. Right? I heard a John Gibbs versus J. Cole once, and I was like, there you go. That's nice, right? And then, frankly, I think if I had to pick a 5th one, John Coltrane, which I don't know if you guys know who that is, but John Coltrane is what I did with music when I wasn't listening to music. So if I had to listen to something, I would listen to 60s progressive jazz because it followed no sequence. I'm glad you asked that because I wouldn't have thought about it, but think about it. Everything's on a 4 count, right? And it repeats. Almost all rap music repeats, but progressive jazz never repeats. It's just totally random. So I'd be driving and I could put that on and I would get lost in it and I couldn't break it down because you can't break it down. And so I fell in love with Coltrane.
That's dope. Man, I never asked you this question. What about you?
Music that I like to listen to right now?
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very into oldies, especially like if I'm driving or cleaning. I just put some oldies on and it's more soothing to my ear. And also I get a lot of like influence like with my melodies, listening to older songs and ideas as well.
But you're talking about like oldies.
Yeah, like some oldies.
Like some lowrider oldies.
Yeah, I guess so.
What's oldies?
Like some Mary Wells.
Yeah, exactly, man.
A little bit of Al Green here and there, you know. Oh, of course, Shy Lights. Yeah, but yeah, no, I like to listen to oldies because it's almost like real music, you know. Like I feel like there's a lot of elements that you don't hear in today's music that you can get from listening to oldies.
Yeah, that's true. Al Green's greatest hits is still like my go-to. Like still, like when I'm not listening to rap or working out, that's what I'm like.
Almost every like song that has like blown up has been influenced by an older song.
Real. But the oldies haven't been flipped the way I would really like to. I have trouble listening. I have my oldies playlist, my second favorite playlist.
Sounds like you about to come out of retirement, man.
No, I can't. But if I do,
I'm going to
do a beat for you, and it's going to be an oldie beat.
Desi's about to have you in the studio, both of you, right?
Yeah,
Once this is over, I already know.
We got to cook up.
Hey, there was a club in North Park called Bar Pink that had Breakbeat Mondays. So what they would do
This is the old North Park before it became what it became.
Yeah, it's actually not that long, like 10 years ago.
Okay.
They would play the rap record, and then they would play the break that they were sampled from. Oh, it's a dope night. You just sit there sipping on an old fashioned, right? Smoking your cigar. Oh, damn.
Andres is like.
I know we forgot to bring some cigars today.
Yeah, but you guys are gonna cut them and split them open and ruin them, man. It might sprinkle a little something. You guys are tripping with that.
It would have been filled with
I
something
got
else,
my
Cozy.
Cubans. I won't let you
filled
next
with
to my
something else.
Cubans, man. I got them Cuban cigars. You ain't touching them. Oh.
No, man. Before we leave, I think we should play some of the music, man. Some of the music that you play for us. Maybe some Gangsta Earn or some. Because
Really
he played it, and then they shot him out. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. So, like, for me, that was super dope to hear.
Are true.
Game is to be sold, not told, motherfucker. So Gangsta E and Frank Z, hook that shit up in code, OG.
You gotta stay strizzed out with that diz open that niz on. Stay under kids of her and your bucket all the tiz on. And make sure your cash flow is zopper. And keep an eye out for the motherfucking kids oppers. Cause they're coming for your is ass every diz day. And when they catch you slipping, you're on your whiz.